Welcome to week 12 of the NBA, and what a week it was. We had magical performances from a 60-point triple-double with Luka Doncic, with everybody saying that this was the greatest regular season performance in the history of basketball, to Giannis doing back-to-back 40-20-point games, to Zion Williamson having himself an impressive 40-point something statistical game. We had fights with Killian Hayes knocking out Mo Wagner out cold, Grayson Allen being a bitch, and of course we had the Brooklyn Nets returning to the top of the NBA on a 13-14 game win streak. They cannot be stopped. And with that, we're going to hop into the power rankings starting at the bottom of the list. Of course, no changes here with the Detroit Pistons, 10-29. 2-2 of the week is pretty good, but all in all, just a really sad season for them with Cade Cunningham out, and of course playing a whole bunch of young guys and a whole bunch of old veterans who aren't going to contribute to winning basketball. Unfortunately, I was a little disappointed in the Killian Hayes punch. It was dirty. I know that Mo Wagner was dirty for pushing him out of bounds the way he did, run at full speed, and that deserves retaliation. But hitting somebody in the back of the head, knocking them out cold, is just unacceptable in my book. They don't even allow that in the UFC, to knock you out with a punch to the back of the head, and that's what Killian Hayes did in retaliation. And the suspension only being 3 games kind of was shocking to me. It's almost like not that we approved this, but we said, you know what, this was a retaliation, so it's okay. So just my 2 cents on the matter. Not a big deal, of course. 2 games versus 3 games versus 5 games. Okay, whatever. All in all, I'm in a little bit of a disagreement with Commissioner Silver. 1 spot ahead of them is the Charlotte Hornets, who are no movement as well for them. Just a really sad point of their season, 10-27 in the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes. LaMelo Ball has been playing great, and the rest of the team has been trash. I'm saying gut the team, play the young guys, and let's see where you are next season, because this year is lost. I don't care how much of a run you go on. They just don't have the pieces. They don't have the wheelhouse. PJ Washington has been okay, so maybe you keep him. And Terry Rozier, optional. Gordon Hayward, definitely get rid of him. Mason Plumlee, definitely get rid of him. There's been a Mark Williams sighting, and he's been pretty good. There's also been Nick Richards sightings all season, and he's been pretty good. But hey, he's not Mason Plumlee, so Steve Clifford is going to refuse to play rookies, kind of similar to what James Borrego did the last few seasons, which has been infuriating if you're a Charlotte Hornets fan. 1 spot ahead of them is the Houston Rockets, who are going to flip-flop with the Spurs here, dropping down 1 spot. Just a really unimpressive season. Eric Gordon came out and said, yeah, this has been a really bad season where we haven't improved whatsoever, and they continue to make basketball difficult for them. 90% of their possessions are these difficult create-for-yourself possessions where you're isoed up, you may get 1 screen, and then that's it. And this is why people like me are calling for Coach Silas's job. Not because he's a bad guy, not because these young guys don't have potential and aren't having fun playing, whatever that means, but because Coach doesn't put them in positions to succeed. Jabari needs a play to get him open. Jalen Green can play make, but he's still developing and discovering his talents. Kevin Porter Jr. is the only guy on the team who can create for himself and others, but he soaks up touches and shots and is routinely leading the team in shot attempts. Alperen Şengün needs to be on every offensive possession with his near Jokic versatility. Modern NBA offenses should start with a play, and if that doesn't work, then you go to a ball screen. And if that doesn't work, then you default to ISO creation for your best player. And the Rockets always start at the ISO creation for your best player and then hope something happens on offense. And it's just frustrating to watch. Yet another game, yet another week, yet another season of mediocrity in Houston. 1 spot ahead of them is the Spurs. They continue to be the hang-around team. They just refuse to get blown out most games despite their complete lack of talent. Keldon Johnson's been pretty good. Devin Vassell has been improving rapidly. And look, they've been competitive this week, jumping up ahead of the Houston Rockets despite their roster talent. And I have the Orlando Magic coming down. It has been really tough the last few games. I thought they took that next step once Markelle Fultz came back. Once they had a true point guard on the roster, I was like, yes, the Magic, they're going to be good. They might compete for a playoff. And, well, they're back in the tank. They've been playing good basketball. Now they're back to playing, well, let's go ahead and try to get Victor Wembanyama on our team as well. Paulo Banchero stopped wearing the dreads, and I think that was the secret to his superpowers. But hey, now you have a rivalry with the Pistons. Good stuff. And we have a tier gap here. This is the tier of teams that are tanking for Victor Wembanyama. Above them, this tier is what we call they're just playing bad basketball tier. No other way around it. At the bottom of this list is the Los Angeles Lakers, and they actually jump up a spot. I kind of counted them out more so than they actually have been. I'll admit it, I completely buried the LA Lakers without Anthony Davis, and with him being out indefinitely, who knows how long that foot, lower leg, whatever injury is going to keep him out, as yet again, Anthony Davis is injured. They've been playing some pretty okay competitive basketball, dare I say. Thomas Bryant has been playing really well. Russ has been doing what he does off the bench. LeBron James has been a freak at 39 years old or however old, 38, whatever. The dude is old as dirt, and the team is playing pretty good under Darvin Ham at this point in the season. One spot ahead of them is the Oklahoma City Thunder. And tell you what, one of my misses in the draft class was Jalen Williams, J-Dub. I did not see the level of playmaking that he did at Santa Clara, and this is just another hit by Sam Presti. I personally would have taken Jalen Duren at pick, I think they had pick 11 and 12. Instead, they took J-Dub and they took Ousmane Dieng, who's barely seen any minutes whatsoever because he's such a raw prospect. But yeah, J-Dub is electric. That said, the rest of the team is disappointing, frustrating, and I think they're not a very good team. I think they're closer to this tier of tanking than they are to this tier of winning, playing in competitive basketball games, maybe going to the playoffs. And all that's keeping them from there is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So I've been really unimpressed with the Thunder outside of Shai, who's having an all-NBA season. I think he's going to be in the all-NBA first team if he continues his performances, dropping 30 points a night, scoring clutch buckets, hitting game winners. I think he's the most clutch player statistically this season. Shai has been great. The rest of the team, not so much. And here at number 23 is the Minnesota Timberwolves, falling down 2 spots as well. 0-4 on the week, just a really rough stretch of games. And I told you this is going to happen. D'Angelo Russell isn't going to be as hot as he was in that middle of the stretch. It was 2 weeks ago where he was just making every shot. Anthony Edwards always plays bad basketball. Or not bad, but he doesn't play smart basketball. He says, I'm going to take either ISO step back jumpers or drive as hard as I can to the paint, kind of like Jalen Green, and hope that I get a foul call, hope that my shot goes in. And let's be fair, the Timberwolves have been playing without arguably their best player for a long time now in Karl Anthony Towns. Say what you will about the Rudy Gobert trade, but right now they're the Lakers without Anthony Davis. They're the Bucks without Giannis. They're not playing with their best players. So all these trade rumors for Karl Anthony Towns doesn't make sense to me. He's not even playing. He's not the one to blame for this team struggling right now. D'Angelo Russell is to blame. Chris Finch is to blame. And of course, who's it? Tom Connolly, whatever his damn name is, in making the Rudy Gobert trade and sapping their team and sapping their depth and sapping their toughness is the ones to blame for the struggle right now on the Minnesota Timberwolves. But they still have all the talent in the world to turn this season around. And the tier gap we have here is the start of the what the fuck is the NBA tier. Now these are teams under 500, and then we have a tier for teams over 500, but there's just a lot of teams that have the potential to be good, that have the potential to be maybe a top 3 seed in their conference, but this season is so ass backwards right now. There's no team that says we're going to be head and shoulders above the rest. There's just a whole bunch of crazy. Starting with the Washington Wizards, 4-0 on the week. They just continue to be up and down, up and down. I've never seen a team more roller coaster than them. They have a lot of good players on their team, don't get me wrong. But you know who the Wizards really miss that's completely understated throughout this whole season for teams and fans not watching the Washington Wizards is DeLon Wright and to a lesser extent, Rui Hachimura. Rui is super inconsistent, just like the Wizards. He's perfectly emblematic of them. But DeLon Wright is an all-around facilitating defensive combo guard who can hit a couple shots, pass for the team. He does everything at a slightly above average level, not like a superstar, but he's such a good role player, so important to this team. And the second he went out, the Wizards struggled. The second he came back, they started going on a winning streak. So look, man, just point to the results. DeLon Wright is hugely important, and the Wizards are back to playing pretty good basketball, even without their quote-unquote best player in Bradley Beal. Bulls are going to jump up a spot as well. They just continue to be in these close games. They will win by 1 point. They'll lose by 1 point. There'll be a missed free throw call here or a missed whistle there, and it's just not sustainable basketball. That said, they're looking a little better than they have at the beginning of the season. I think they were down here closer to this tank for Victor Wembanyama tier, even though they don't have their first round pick similar to the LA Lakers. Now they're in this what the fuck is the NBA tier where they could win on any given night. They're similar to teams like the Wizards, teams like the Raptors, where they could be playing a lot better than they are right now. Still, of course, waiting for Lonzo Ball to come back, who's probably not. Let's be honest, he's gone for the entire season. But the Bulls, as always, have potential. You got DeMar DeRozan, you got Zach LaVine. Nikola Vucevic has been playing really good. And so coming in ahead of them is the Toronto Raptors, and what a team that has the potential to beat anybody on any given night. They're just struggling with consistency, struggling with shooting, struggling with defensive effort, and struggling with finding good rosters and rotation, because I don't know what the hell Nick Nurse is doing. I think he's one of the best coaches in the NBA, but he's playing these 8-man rotations. I think the starting lineup was Scott Barnes, of course. It was Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, I think Chris Boucher, and then another one of their tall wings like Kem Birch or something. They played basically 5 power forwards in their starting lineup, and I know that Scotty Barnes has the potential to be a point guard-ish, but he's not there yet. It was just this bizarre head-scratching lineup from Nick Nurse, who continues to play people in 8-man rotations in the regular season and puts people in a doghouse for no reason. It's if you're a Raptors fan, you've been seeing this for a long time now. It's just head-scratching. I think the Raptors are closer to blowing it up than they are to competing. And coming in ahead of them is the Atlanta Hawks, who are just in a complete mess right now. 0-3 in the week, dropping down 3 spots. Nate McMillan has been threatening to retire or leave the team, and I don't blame him because everybody is asking for his firing, not because he's a bad guy, but because they disagree with his coaching philosophy, and I'm probably on that train as well. Think of the coaches that are in the NBA right now that should be fired, or should I say replaced with possible better options, is Doc Rivers, Nate McMillan, Steve Clifford, Steven Silas, and then the rest is kind of a wait and see. But the organization is just in a mess right now. I think they fired their GM or president of basketball operations, whatever the hell titles that these people get. And they're just struggling in spite of making that trade, similar to how the Timberwolves are, giving up everything for a player who isn't quite a superstar talent. Well, this is what happens. Now you've handicapped your team for the next 4, 5, 6 years, and you probably aren't going to be competitive for a championship either. You need to look in a different direction. Coming in ahead of them is the Utah Jazz, dropping down 3 spots, 0-4 on the week. Of course, playing tough, playing competitive. They don't have the same magic that they had at the start of this season. They went 10-3 to start the year, and now let's see, 10-3, so they're 9-17. That's about right. That's more what we expected from the Utah Jazz. All that being said, Lauri's still playing great. Jordan Clarkson's still playing really good basketball. The team is flying around. They play tough. They play competitive. Sometimes you just don't win basketball games, and that's why they're going to be here at 18. Got a tier gap here, and these teams are the over 500. What the fuck is the NBA tier? Starting with the Miami Heat, go on a run. They're almost like the Wizards to a lesser extent, to where they win a bunch of games and then lose a bunch of games. They win a bunch of games and lose a bunch of games. There's no consistency to this team, similar to the Bulls as well. Every single game that they're in is a 2 or 1 point game where Tyler Hero needs to make a game-winning shot. Sometimes he makes it, sometimes he doesn't. Is this a formula for winning basketball consistently through the regular season? No, but right now it's got them over 500 and they're just hanging around. Hopefully they make a move at the trade deadline, get a little bit of better depth at the wing position, maybe bring in somebody who can replace Kyle Lowry to be the number 2, number 3 option while Jimmy Butler's load managing himself. Either way, the Heat not in a position to compete, but they're not in a position to tank. They're just in this weird limbo. What the fuck is the NBA? Coming in ahead of them is the Golden State Warriors, 19-18, 3-0 on the week without Stephanie Curry. And look, the team is pretty good without Steph. Let's be completely honest. They won a championship because they have great depth, and these young guys are balling out. Jonathan Kuminga has been a monster. Jordan Poole's been great. James Wiseman has been showing flashes. As always, they're going to be really good and really consistent. You got Steve Kerr leading the way, Draymond Green, the old veteran, even Kevon Looney's just in every single play on every single screen or roll. The Warriors are a top to bottom pretty good basketball team with Steph Curry putting them over the top. They just need to continue to get better, continue to develop, and somebody needs to come out and say, I'm going to be Steph Curry's number 2, and when he's out, I'm going to be the number 1 on this team. We expect that's going to be Jordan Poole, but he really struggled to start the season, playing a little bit better basketball right now. Got the Pacers ahead of them. The actual ordering of these 3 teams hasn't changed at all. They're just jumping up ahead of the Jazz, jumping up ahead of the Hawks. Pacers been playing really good basketball as well, 3-0 on the week. Not much to say. They can always beat any team on any given night. They just need to figure out some consistency. Tyrese Halliburton has been great at this point in the season. 1 spot ahead of them is the Portland Trailblazers, 18-17, 1-1 on the week. They haven't played a lot of basketball this week, so there's not too much to grade. They're a pretty decent team, top to bottom, when Damian Lillard is healthy. That's about all I can say. Are they going to compete for a chip? Probably not. After their soft rebuild, they kind of pushed their chips to the middle of the table. They got Jeremy Grant. They got Anthony Simons, they got Damian Lillard, Yusuf Nurkic. I think this team is good enough to possibly make it to the second round as presently constructed. Is that all you want in Portland? I don't know. Ask the GM, ask the coach. But for now, sitting here at 14th. 13th is going to be the New York Knicks, and I contemplated dropping them even further. But right now, Jalen Brunson is out, and their best player is out, similar to the Timberwolves, similar to the Lakers. Their best player is out, so I don't want to change their positioning too much. I think Jalen Brunson's going to come back soon. He's going to get back to playing amazing basketball. The Knicks are going to get back to winning about 50% of their games. Other than that, though, I cannot believe how ugly the offense is without Jalen Brunson. I think 80% of their offense is go to Julius Randle, ISO at the elbow, and pray he gets us a bucket. It's just, it's hideous, and it's why people like me are also done with Coach Tom Thibodeau. Got the Clippers here at 21-17, but I only have them 12th just because any given night they're going to say, you know what? We don't care about this game. go heck yourselves. And it's frustrating as an NBA fan. It's frustrating as a guy who buys tickets. But for the Clippers, it's probably the right thing to do since their target is the playoffs. Their target is winning a championship. Now, Kawhi Leonard needs to get right. All things being equal, he's playing some pretty bad basketball right now. He's just not smooth. He's kind of clunky running around the court. His jump shot is not there yet. I think he's shooting like 27% from the three-point line. Other than isoing up in the post, there isn't really a lot of versatility to his game. He hit those game winners and then has just been Paul George has been the engine for this team, which he has been for the last 2-3 years, it feels like. So the Clippers just continue to figure things out. Hopefully they get their offense rolling and they continue to jump up in the power rankings. Coming ahead of them is the Phoenix Suns, just falling down 2 more spots. And as they continue to play without Devin Booker, who is their best player, unarguably at this point, they're going to continue to fall. But they were, remember, the #1 team in the Western Conference not too long ago. So I'm going to drop them down slowly. They're dealing with injuries. We're in the grind of the regular season. Everybody's dealing with injuries right now. They have Cam Johnson still out. Devin Booker is going to be gone. Jay Crowder is gone. Cam Payne is gone. I think there was another guy, not Damian Lee, but they're just struggling right now. They don't have a lot of depth on the team. They don't have a lot of shot creators. They don't have a lot of playmakers beyond Mikal Bridges and Cliff Paul, and that's it. So there was a lineup that they actually played in a game that was competitive of Dwayne Washington Jr., Damian Lee, Ish Wainwright, Dario Saric, and Jacques Landale. You're going to lose a lot of basketball games playing with those 5 guys on the court at the same time. So look, it's going to be a tough couple of weeks for the Suns. I expect somewhere around February, once Cam Johnson comes back, once Devin Booker is back to being healthy, hopefully they're going to be playing good basketball, going to jump up again. Got the Kings coming in at 10th. No movement for them. They play good. They play bad. They're an up and down team, still trying to figure out how to win. They're in a lot of close games. De'Aaron Fox has been clutch. Domantas Sabonis is okay. Good team top to bottom. Not a great team top to bottom. They're basically a barometer team at this point. If you beat the Kings, you're going to go into the playoffs pretty confidently. If you lose to the Kings, you should probably start to figure some things out because you got something wrong with your roster. And we got the Dallas Mavericks jumping up 2 spots now, 21-16. Luka Doncic has been playing out of his mind. Christian Wood has been great. Spencer Dinwiddie has been great. The Mavericks have been looking really good. That said, I'm not in on them yet. Nobody should be with the way that the roster is presently constructed, with Kemba Walker being their backup playmaker. This team, as presently constructed, isn't going to win a championship. That's why I have them at the top of this tier of what the fuck is the NBA without putting them into the next tier of championship contenders, because they just don't have a good enough roster. They need somebody else like a Jalen Brunson who's going to help take some of the load off Luka Doncic, because right now Luka's in that Michael Jordan stretch early in the Bulls where he's scoring 60 points and 63 points and being a one-man show, and it's great and it's fun to watch, but they're not going to win a lot of games doing this. At some point, if anything happens to Luka, he tweaks an ankle, hurts his thumb, the Mavericks are kind of dead in the water. So it's great to watch as a fan of Luka. It's a little bit of a struggle to watch as a fan of the Dallas Mavericks, and that's why I have them not in this tier of championship contenders. In the tier, though, at the bottom is the Philadelphia 76ers, and fire Doc Rivers. I don't know how else to say it. I watched a 40-minute documentary about all the 3-1 leads that Doc Rivers has blown throughout his coaching tenure. I don't know why he's still a head coach. I appreciate everything he does. He's a great guy. He's got infinite knowledge about the game of basketball, but man, he can just not make adjustments on a basketball team. And so they're 1-2 on the week, struggling. The great quote that I saw about Doc Rivers is he boosts the floor of your team. If you got a whole bunch of nobodies, he's going to make them play tough, good, fundamental basketball, and he lowers the ceiling. You're not going to win too many championships with him, if any. He's going to get out-coached. The other teams are going to run circles around him, and he's going to continue to play lineups that are inefficient, not working, and he loves playing like Montrezl Harrell over Paul Reed. It is what it is. This Philadelphia 76ers, if they make the right moves, if they find the right coach, they have the potential to be the best team in the NBA. Remember, at the beginning of the season, I picked them to win it all, but Doc Rivers is really hindering that. And I think it's Doc Rivers' fault alone at this point. I can't point the finger at anybody else. Coming in ahead of them is the Memphis Grizzlies. They're dropping 2 spots as well, not for anything that they've done, just because Desmond Bane has been out. They haven't been winning impressively in my book. And I have a couple teams ahead of them that I think have higher talent, higher potential. They went 3-1 on the week. They were very impressive. Basically in the exact same vein of thought are the New Orleans Pelicans. Also went 3-1 on the week. Also pretty impressive. also missing their star, Brandon Ingram. They're a good basketball team. I think they're still figuring things out, which is why their 23-13 record is so impressive. But just a few teams have been more impressive than them, starting with the Denver Nuggets. Beat the best team in the NBA, have been playing incredible basketball. Nikola Jokic has been playing great. He's been statistically probably the best of his career. And then Jamal Murray has been balling the hell out. This is the Jamal we've been waiting for, who's not always going to give you 30 points a night, but in the fourth quarter, when you need a bucket, when you need somebody to take you home and they're doubling and tripling Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray has been that dude. Michael Porter Jr. has come back. Aaron Gordon has been playing great. Their defense has been good. I still don't love the depth of their roster top to bottom, but their stars are healthy. Their stars are playing good basketball. The Nuggets are looking pretty fierce right now. 24-12, going to jump up 3 spots and jump up into this tier of legit title contenders. Right ahead of them is the Bucks, who had just been playing bad basketball for pretty much a while now. Started the season hot without Chris Middleton, and it's kind of been waning on them. Drew Holiday's been in and out of the lineup. Chris Middleton still continues to sit, and Giannis has been taking way too many jumpers. Now, he's still probably my MVP favorite at this point in the season, but they're just struggling when their other playmakers are Grayson Allen and Wes Matthews and George Hill, and then Giannis trying to take fadeaway jump shots. It's just really ugly to watch. They still have their twin or triple towers of Bobby Portis and Brook Lopez and Giannis. So the formula is still there. Once they get healthy, I continue to expect them to roll, play great basketball. But right now, the Bucks are in a little bit of a downward spin, and that's expected throughout the lengthy NBA season. Just hoping to get Chris Middleton back. Hopefully, Drew Holiday plays more games than he has been, and the Bucks go back to winning basketball. Got the Cavaliers not moving at all. 23-14, also 1-2 on the week. Lost a couple close ones. It is what it is. The Cavs are still a very good team. Now, it might be time to talk about if JB Bickerstaff is the man to push the team over the top. I'm not at all trying to discredit the work he's done. Last year, they were a Cinderella team after being a consensus tanking for the #1 overall pick team to start the year. They built this unique roster. Half the league is trying to replicate it, running their double big lineups. Look no further than the Timberwolves, who blew up their whole future for that. They got Donovan Mitchell, pushed all their chips to the table. However, some of the rotations are head scratching. The roster decisions don't make sense. It might be time to have a look and say, is JB Bickerstaff the Mark Jackson? And do we need to find our Steve Kerr to put us over the top? Just food for thought, but the Cavaliers are still playing very good basketball. I'm not going to drop them after a disappointing week, but ahead of them is the Brooklyn Nets, who have just been continuing to win games. Man, are they looking scary. And the worst part for the NBA is it's not their offense. They aren't #1 offensively. They're #1 defensively. These guys have been flying around. Nick Claxton has looked amazing. Ben Simmons has played tough. Royce O'Neal, TJ Warren, Edmund Sumner, Yuta Watanabe, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. These guys have been playing menacing defense as they go on this win streak, and their offense has been pretty similar to what we saw in the Steve Kerr era. But this is the difference a head coach makes. Now imagine if Jacques Vaughn had a whole offseason. The Nets could be better. Think about that. But the Nets finally living up to those expectations that we had when they all joined this superpower team. Going to be #2 in the rankings. And of course, no surprises. I have the Boston Celtics, #1 team in the league. I was going to put a tier here because they're #1 statistically. They're #1 record-wise, but they are starting to come down. I don't think they're untouchable, or at least as untouchable as they were earlier in the season. Starting to lose games, starting to get in little ruts and grinds here, but it is what it is. It's the NBA season. There's 82 games. It goes on for freaking 80 months. So the Celtics are going to have some downs, some ups. We'll see how they play in the playoffs. And that is going to do it for this week's Power Rankings. Let me know what your thoughts are, what you agree with, what you disagree with, and I'll catch you in the next one.